This podcast brought to you by Digital Diamond Entertainment.
All right, Vex, run the intro.
So when am I getting paid for this?
Kind of like a podcast, sort of, but not really. We're podcast-ish.
What's this tish? What do you mean tish? That's right, we do.
Some material may be inappropriate for children under 13.
Hey, welcome back to the Podcast Dish Podcast, where every week we give you the facts, fiction, and twisted opinions on aspects of human behavior. We believe words are important, and the facts don't give a fuck about your feelings. So sit back and strap in, because this Tim, we go in on fake news.
And today's episode of I Want All the Smoke broadcast, this tin right here, is brought to you by Lex. For all your Stay Fresh needs, Lex has you covered. If you're looking for Bape Supreme, that exclusive 2-6 Dover collection, and those hard-to-find Jordans or Yeezys, you need to check out Lex. That's Lex on 17th Avenue Southeast and Chinook Mall across from Urban Outfitters. Don't sleep.
What's happening?
9.
I'm Pernell Roundlaw alongside the one and only John Vex, Will Hayes.
That's me.
How the fuck y'all doing?
I'm excellent.
We're back again, man. We
You didn't even wait for anybody to reply. How you doing? We're back again.
You make a bad host, Pernell.
Oh, that's cold. That's cold.
Why? That's fake news. Just shake your head and nod.
Yes.
Thank you. I appreciate it. We're on a podcast, my man.
We are the podcast.
We seem to be getting some traction here, boys.
For fake news or just like
That's because of the winter tires, man.
No, for podcasting, we're getting some traction here. More and more downloads each week. I can't thank the listeners enough.
No doubt.
For supporting us week in, week out.
Please subscribe, the comments, and leave your reviews. That's all we want.
Yeah, leave a review. Listen, we have literally over probably 5,000 subs, but the download numbers reflect much higher than that. Mm-hmm. You guys are killing it. I guess that means we're killing it by proxy.
By extension.
What does proxy mean?
I think it's when you delegate it to somebody else. That's your proxy. Am I right?
I believe so, yes.
Okay.
So by proxy is like you guys are killing it in our absence. So yeah.
Well, that works.
By extension of proxy. You guys are killing it.
Yeah, I want to shout out a couple people, some of our biggest followers. Dave Bullough, what's happening, man? Jonathan Stewart, Koko Butterbrown. I'm not going to use your real name. I'm not going to use your real name because that's what your name is on Facebook, and I don't know if you want your real name shouted out.
Yo, can I give a shout out to Koko Butterbrown? I just followed him on Facebook, and I realized him and I are the same person, just with different upbringings from the different parts of the world. This motherfucker is my motherfucker.
Yeah, that's him and I get along so good. I think that's why.
He's always posting stuff that I'm posting. He's posting stuff we have to post. His posts. That's my dude. That's my dude. That's my A1 from day 7.
You heard it in the intro. This week we're going in on fake news. I'm going to start right here with the Wikipedia. Every week, I listen to the podcast every week and I say, where do you guys want to start? This time I'm not doing that.
I'm starting right here.
I'm starting right here on the Wikipedia page. Fake news or junk news or pseudo news is a type of yellow journalism or propaganda that consists of deliberate disinformation or hoaxes spread via traditional print and broadcast news media or online social media. That is one congested fucking sentence. The false information is often caused by reporters paying sources for stories, an unethical practice called checkbook journalism. The news is then often reverberated as misinformation in social media, but occasionally finds its way to the mainstream media as well. Fake news is written and published, usually with the intent to mislead in order to damage an agency, entity, or person, and or gain financially or politically. Often use sensationalist, dishonest, or outright fabricated headlines to increase readership. Similarly, clickbait stories and headlines earn advertising revenue from this activity.
So a lot of it is money driven.
Yeah.
And a lot of it is also agenda driven.
Right.
Yeah. And I think it's going to sound weird. We've seen a lot of fake news in the news simply because of the fact that people have now been getting caught with their pants down, metaphorically.
Yeah. The internet's a double-edged knife. The internet's what's providing with the fake news, but at the same time, the internet's kind of exposing the fake news.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I would say so. In this day and age of rapidly accessible information, it is very easy to mislead a lot of people immediately.
Tell me that you probably know this. What is the saying about the government fearing its people? You should be governed by the fear of the people, not for the... What is it?
I don't know. I'm
I'm gonna
not
look it
familiar
up
with
because I believe that's what's happening with fake news on the internet. But
While he's looking that up, John, give us a couple examples of fake news from recent headlines.
Well, two come to mind immediately. Justin Smollett, otherwise known as Jussie Smollett.
Yes, actor from Empire.
If you want to call him an actor. Yeah, that man can actually act. He acts very well.
Yes.
Right? And I've never seen an episode of The Empire, but I have seen his interviews. And yes, he's a hell of an actor. And the Covington Catholic Boys case.
Absolutely.
Right? And with the Covington Catholic Boys, especially, what I'm very happy to hear and report, this is not fake news, people, is their first lawsuit has gone out and they are suing the Washington Post
For $250?
for $250 million, which incidentally is also the price that was paid to purchase the Washington Post.
Yeah, Jeff Bezos purchased it for
Mr. Bezos.
$250 million.
Yeah.
tell us. So for those that don't know, tell us about the Catholic boys.
Covington,
Covington Catholic boys. Tell us the whole
the
quick
brief
synopsis.
synopsis.
Yeah, go ahead and give us. Go ahead.
Synopsis. I mean,
Catholic Boys School was attending the March for Life. They were told to congregate at a certain area to wait for their...
March for Life is
the March for Life is an anti-abortion march.
perfect.
So, yeah. They were told to congregate and wait for their chaperones. While they were assembled on the steps of, I cannot remember what building it was, there was a small group of black Hebrew Israelites that started hurling racist and bigoted insults at them. Now, what I find very interesting in this day and age is you say racist and bigoted insult, and the first thing that comes to anyone's mind, even mine, is white people attacking someone of color. Right? So let's not be stupid and silly and call racist what it is. A group of one people, or a group of one type of person of a certain ethnic background insulting someone else based on their ethnic background.
Right, and let me just interject there real quick. We did our first three shows were abortion, racism, and
Something else.
something else. I can't remember. And we're actually going to redo those shows with Will Hayes because I don't think he was on those with us, but we really want to redo them with him. So and
revisit the topics.
And now that we have a bigger listener, much larger listener base, it'd be nice to get those ideas out.
Yeah.
Carry on. Sorry.
So there was also a group of natives, and the funny thing is, looking at the full footage, this group of natives were also under attack from the black Hebrew Israelites. Right? The black Hebrew Israelites were just hurling insults left, right, and center. So the Covington Catholic Boys decided they would start their school chant in order to drown out the black Hebrew Israelites. The native group, upon seeing this, one of the guys decided, an older fella, what's his name, Pranel?
I'm going through it right now.
He decided to walk up beating a drum right in the middle of the Catholic Boys School,
which is fine.
Assembly. Yeah, which is fine.
Nathan Phillips.
Nathan Phillips. Now, little backstory on Nathan Phillips. There's been a lot of misinformation about him.
He's not an army vet.
He's not a Vietnam vet, but it was stated in the news that he is a decorated Vietnam vet, etc., whatever, right? So, and then by his account, he said that he felt afraid and that the boys would not let him leave, which the footage clearly shows is the opposite of what he said. Okay, so he's up there beating a drum in this kid's face. Now, as a teenager, as a 16 or 17-year-old, you see an old man walking up to you, you don't know what is going on, right? I'm sure it really caught him off guard. The snippet that the whole news ran with was of him smiling, standing his ground, and Nathan Phillips beating a drum in his face.
That takes a lot of self-restraint.
It takes a lot of self-restraint. And you could look at his face, and I mean, I'm not going to necessarily speak on his behalf. I can only say in my scenario, I would probably smile too, because it would be one of those uncomfortable scenarios where you're going, well.
No, I would have thrown punches.
Yeah.
Yep. Absolutely. I don't think I had that. I don't think I have that self-restraint.
If he's beating the drum in your face, like
if he's millimeters from my face, yeah. Or I push him or something. I get him the fuck out of my face. This 16-year-old kid had considerable self-restraint.
Yeah, absolutely. So now, what ended up happening with the whole thing, and I see this all the time, but there are a lot of people who refuse to see it. So let me back up a little bit and give you my my thoughts on what is actually going on. Okay? What is actually going on has nothing to do with necessarily trying to divide the races, although that is part of it, I believe. But the bigger picture is they're trying to smear a certain group of people. If you look at all of these fake hoaxes, these fake hate crime stories and these fake news stories, they always seem to be targeting conservative Christians. They always seem to do that, right? Church burned down. People think it was a MAGA supporter, a Trump supporter, right? So it seems to be conservative Christians or Trump supporters that are at the brunt of these attacks. And the news going with it. Now, if you look at the news sites and the news programs, the bulk of them, I'm talking over 80% of them, are liberal Democrats. Okay? So they have an agenda in mind. From Jump Street, they were saying Trump is a racist, Trump is a bigot, Trump is a sexist, etc., 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 with zero evidence. But then when you actually look at it and you trace where the money is going, you can tell that all of these people had a vested interest in Hillary Clinton's campaign. They donated to Hillary Clinton's campaign. So the analogy I will make here is, are you going to go to a cigarette company and believe their studies that cigarettes do not cause cancer? Because this is what cigarette companies did. Right? Of course you're not going to believe it because they have a vested interest in selling their products.
He's going right in. It's like
of
10
course
minutes
I'm going
in.
right in. Because
So we gotta then in that same breath, and I mean the only way to combat fake news is to don't believe everything you hear, but you got to look at in the U.S. case, I guess the FDA and what they say is healthy and not, and look at who the FDA is because the FDA does. They have investments in big pharma in the U.S. too.
Yeah, but that's not my point, though. That's really and truly not my point. My point is more of you would not believe someone who has a vested interest in a certain agenda. You would not necessarily believe them if they go, yeah, my agenda is correct.
Well, you wouldn't consider them to be biased in their statement.
You would consider,
or not.
Yeah,
they may be telling you the truth, but you wouldn't consider their truth to be biased.
Yes, you would consider their truth to be biased.
To be biased. Yeah, my fault. Yeah,
right.
Yeah.
So, by the same token, I would look at the majority of the MSM and look at how they've been reporting and how many times in the last 3 years they've been caught with their pants down. Don Lemon, who is supposedly a reporter, I can do a better reporting job with my, hands tied behind my back, blindfolded. But that being said, Don Lemon refuses to actually see what is going on.
Is he just an anchor or is he a reporter?
He's a reporter.
He has a team though, right?
I don't know. I don't know how CNN necessarily works. But if you're going out there saying, yes, I'm a reporter and I'm reporting news, report the goddamn news. Right? That's your job. I don't give a shit what you think about the story. Just report the news. That's it.
Right. There's a lot of, I mean, we do it too. There's a lot of opinions being thrown around.
Yeah, but none of us hide our agenda. None of us say, listen, we're trying to be absolutely objective here all the time. No, I'm giving you my opinion. My opinion is heavily based on fact, but it is still my opinion.
Right. I mean, us three can sit here and say we can give you our objective opinion, and try to, be objective, but there is still that constraint of this is how we're going to think and this is why we believe what we do and this is why our opinion turns out the way it is, right? There's always that underlying that underlying thing that's dragging us towards one side or the other, right?
Absolutely. I will say straight up, I'm a conservative. Therefore, you can look at the way I talk and what my opinions are on certain things. The difference is when you look at something like Fox News will say so-and-so happened, here are the sources, right? When you look at CNN will say an unnamed source or an anonymous source gave us this information. Anonymous source must be a very highly paid man by now. Because CNN cites him all the fucking time.
Right, and that's the problem is that you don't know where the actual statement's coming from, where this news is coming from, right?
Yeah, who is anonymous source?
It could be the owner of CNN or somebody instead just writing something, right?
Absolutely.
There's no consistency, there's no guidelines, there's no morals or fact checking to be done with that, right? Because you can't fact check anonymous.
That doesn't mean that regardless, even though CNN will say this is the source that gave it to you, they're still citing a biased source to like CNN or not CNN, Fox News still pushes an agenda just because they're not as covert with their agenda as CNN is.
Oh no, I'm not saying
I'm not
that
saying
at all.
they don't
But
have
both
one,
sides,
but-
both sides have an agenda, right?
Yeah. Right. The problem is, I find it hard to believe someone who goes, somebody told me this, as opposed to, here's actually where I got the information from.
Right.
Right. And that's, I remember.
Sorry, to be fair, there are parties that come forward that say, I want to remain anonymous. and
Absolutely.
give- right. But I think what you're saying is that it's being used too often and too early.
Not only is it being used too often and too early, but almost every time they've said, an anonymous source told us this, the story turns out to be false. Right? So at some point in time, you're going, okay, you're the boy that cried wolf then. Really and truly. So when the wolf is actually at your door, I'm not going to believe you.
Right.
Right? I hesitate to say this, but should Don Lemon actually be the victim of a racist, homophobic attack, I'll be very hesitant to believe him.
Yeah, it's to the point now where he's, I mean, not
Like
just
he's
him.
gaslighting now.
Yeah,
He's literally gaslighting.
Yeah, I
now.
don't want to pick on Don Lemon. I mean, he does deserve everything he's getting, but I mean,
No, the dude's an imbecile.
right. But so is Jussie Smollett, and so
Jussie
is
Smollett is also an imbecile. But
know-
here's the thing. The story had so many holes in it from the beginning
right.
that anybody who sat there and went, I fully believe this guy, has to be an imbecile.
But Jussie Smollett, you don't have to be an imbecile. There's so many holes in the story, but you don't have to be an imbecile to believe his story.
No.
You just have to be overly sympathetic for a specific cause, and at the same time scared of the ramifications of going against that specific cause. Jussie Smollett.
That's part of the problem. Absolutely.
That's definitely part of the
That's
problem.
absolutely
but it's not,
part of the problem.
But the Jussie Smollett, that's not a case of fake news. That's a case of someone lying and fooling a lot of people.
But here's the
regardless
thing.
if they came out and said if they were fooled because of whatever. It's not the same as fake news. Fake news, because nobody who pushed the Jussie Smollett thing, as far as like the news, like BET and all the things that just reported what happened, nobody pushed that as an agenda. Nobody pushed what they knew to be false as the and used it as an agenda. They may have pushed what they thought to be true and used that for the agenda because they thought it was true.
You see,
or they just didn't, or they just didn't do the
I
fact
think they didn't do
checking.
their due diligence. That's the problem, right?
But that's
on both sides.
But they did the due diligence that was done, because as soon as it came out, like at the end of the day, as soon as it came out, nobody can say. There's only a couple of people that said he may be lying, and they worded it carefully.
yeah.
And they're not really in the point to do due diligence. They may be freelance. They may not have all the information. They may just
Oh,
be
no,
able to-
absolutely.
And, like,
Absolutely.
The
But
news
I-
places that did do their due diligence, all the news places that still went and did the support for him and reported about it and da-da-da, as soon as holes started coming in the story, they're pulling back on that. You got to understand, this happened in the span of 5 days.
Listen, I bought in hook, line, and sinker. Right. I've yet to see a retraction from people that were still on the. I hate to keep individualizing or
polarizing
these sides, but people on one side are not they may be pulling back, but they're not giving a retraction from statements made, right?
But you don't have to give a retractment from statements made in a case like this. If you report something in a case like this, you're not giving a retractment. You're saying, okay, that's not what actually happened.
Yeah.
A retraction. That's not actually what happened. This is actually what happened. And if you're not seeing that, turn on CNN. It's getting far too what's happening now. Him lying, all this shit that's going down is getting far too much news time. It's getting way more news time than
And
what it did before.
meantime, a 1-year-old was shot in the head in Chicago in a gang shooting gone wrong. Mm-hmm. Right, and he's now in the hospital in critical condition, but no one's ever going to hear about that. So this is the other danger of fake news, and I hesitate.
That's a false narrative. I saw that on WPIX 2 nights ago
Yeah,
on the Chicago news that we get.
of course it would be on the Chicago news.
So you can't say
Right.
nobody's heard about that.
Did you hear about that, P?
I didn't.
And I did, and so did you.
I
That's
heard
a
of- yeah.
majority in this room. That's a majority over nobody.
But here's the thing: is I check the news 15 times a day, and I didn't hear about it.
Okay, and I don't, and I
No,
did.
I know.
That's the whole
I'm
thing.
I'm just saying. It's just the algorithm and how we get our news now, right? Things are fed to us. They're spoon feeding what they think we want to read now. It's not even objective news we're getting from anywhere. We're getting the algorithms through social media or what they choose to report on. as opposed to reporting the news like it was 20 years ago,
but
right?
It was the exact same thing 20 years ago. This all started as soon as CNN came out with a 24-hour news broadcasting system. There's no such thing as 24 hours worth of news. It's impossible to have 24 hours, 7 days a week worth of news. And if you watch, there's documentaries and everything like that. Apart from the 80s, there's one that Tom Hanks put out. They needed stuff to put in there. They started putting filler in there. They started putting things that if they started reporting on stuff that would bring. They started reporting on things that would bring in viewers.
Right.
And then doing, okay, we're going to send you on location. We're going to report about this 14 hours. We're going to have 3 reporters there living in a tent. So that whole on that whole action news team, and everything like that. Now they're starting to pull in, and after a little while, and after the OJ case, the OJ case is what pushed them into predominance. You didn't see anything outside of OJ, shit happened all the time. And there's a lot of fake
that
news.
shit,
yeah,
like
and there's
crazy.
so much fake news that happened in the OJ case. But it's the reason why we're looking at it now and saying this may be too much. We got to look at it. It's like it's not a new phenomenon. We just may be oversaturated with it now.
So let me ask you guys a question. Do you think is the news just less news, more 100, almost 80% filler now, instead of 80% news, 20% filler now? Has it transgressed into what we see as quote unquote news?
I say it's all news, but at the end of the day, the kid that got shot in the head in Chicago is local news.
Yeah.
That may have got some blurbs on like headline news, like CNN has headline news, and they do it all over, but that's local news, right? Whereas we have the kids that there's a house fire that killed 7 kids in Halifax, right? But that's not all over the wire. It had a couple of hits, but that's probably all over the wire in Halifax local news, right?
That's everywhere.
Yeah. So that's a huge thing. But just for example, it's not. You know what I'm saying? Like things like that happen. So that's
that
local
won't
news
hit
is
the
local
US.
news.
Let me interject real quick. I think it's great to know that we have localized news and we have nationalized news, and I think what each of them report on could be similar, could be different depending on the day. It depends on what they feel is important and what they feel the listener and the viewer is important.
The 24-hour news stations for sure. Like, and it's the contrast between the U.S. and Canada is crazy because if you watch Global National, it's like Global National starts in Victoria and just hits a whole bunch of shit and goes across the gamut and comes back. Whereas if you look at the national news in the States, it's more tabloid centric. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, they've definitely sensationalized their news. Absolutely.
And if you look at how the US operates in everyday life, it's all about the most attention that you can get for your brand.
Yeah, because that means more money. That means more advertisers.
So you're gonna see fake news because some of these narratives, you're gonna see Trump in the headlines all the time. That narrative brings in viewers. You're going to see the Jussie Smollett in the headlines all the time. Even more now. Because before when it happened, you saw it in there. But we kind of like... You notice how that Jussie Smollett kind of... It happened and it died off for like a day and a half until these holes started popping up. And next thing you know, now it's blowing up.
No, I never saw the fall off simply because I was posting in the group chat about it. Every single thing that I heard, I was posting simply because I wanted to stay on top of it, right?
But you saw what you were... Okay, so that's what I mean. So... with the posting in the group chats wasn't a continuous posting of his story or what happened to him or the people standing up behind him.
It was one day, one, and then there was
of
boom,
what
boom,
happened,
boom, boom, boom,
and then the next thing you know, it's like because what we talked about what happened,
and then it was 3 days later.
3 days later, you're posting the other thing, like when he got found out to be a liar and all these holes in the story.
We talked about it on Monday, and then on Wednesday, I was firing off stuff in the.
But
between
Monday
to Tuesday, the Tuesday was off. Yeah,
Monday and Tuesday, there's nothing about what happened. Next thing, and there's the thing, and I'm watching the news, and the major news is, and the I guess the urban news is reporting holes in his story. And they're reporting what the Chicago police are doing an investigation. They said they got the suspects, and one urban news place said they have suspects, but they're being objective. They're like, but the suspects that they have aren't white. Now they're having a question like, didn't they say they were white? The suspects that they have are masked, but they're clearly black.
Right.
Yes.
And then you have the Chicago Police Department who, is known right now. They're in a turf war with gangs in Southside Chicago, right? So even people from that side are like, well, we can't trust the cops, even whatever they say. I heard that 15 times on my timeline. I'm like, they're cops. They're backed by a whole bunch of people. It's not just one person saying this, right? So it's an investigative team.
You can't paint all cops with one brush,
right?
To use a Will Hayes analogy,
right? There's a few bad apples, and then
absolutely, there might be many bad apples, but at the same time, if the case comes out and it's cut and dry and it says ABC, they have the dudes on camera.
Yeah, buying
Right?
stuff.
They have the dudes on camera. They have the dudes cooperating.
Yes, they have the phone records of the guys they have the text back and forth.
They have letters.
Yes.
They sign money. They sign letters. Who
Yes.
signs a letter in it?
Who pays for a crime with a check?
$3,500. That's it.
Like Jussie Smollett he was on Instagram. He's friends with just over 600 people, and he's friends with the two people. These two guys were extras on
Empire. One of them
So
was
that's
his
what
personal trainer.
Like,
Yeah, so I don't. That's why I feel like that's not the Jussie Smollett thing is not a good example of fake news because
true.
it wasn't.
I think
fake
it's a very
news.
good example of
It's a
fake
good
news.
example of
I think-
him lying.
I think it was one person trying to set the narrative, right? That's
But-
just one. I don't think that was a conspiracy. Let's talk about something that was, though.
Well, okay, what was?
I want to talk
Moon
about.
landing.
I want to talk about the University of Virginia and the Rolling Stone magazine article.
Hit me.
Yeah, I don't know what that is.
It's called "A Rape on Campus."
Oh, is this the lacrosse team?
This is Sabrina Erdley, who wrote an article in Rolling Stone magazine.
This is a couple of years ago, eh?
Yes,
Yeah.
2014.
Oh, a few more than that. Okay, cool.
And this story was eventually retracted by Rolling Stone, but it was published about a girl named Jackie Coakley, a University of Virginia student, and she was taken to a party hosted by UVA's Phi Kappa Psi fraternity by a fellow student. At the party, Jackie alleged in the article her date led her to a bedroom where she was gang raped by several fraternity members as part of an initiation rite.
Wow.
This turned out to be completely false. There was no fact checking. There wasn't a party that night. Like, you know what I mean? This could have been so easily fact checked by Rolling Stone, and this falls directly on Rolling Stone,
Yes.
and directly on the writer, and directly on everybody else who reported on this without even phoning somebody to say, was there a party that night?
Yes, something simple as that.
You know, you can check to see if there was a party, who threw the party.
Yes.
Where was the party located? Did this girl go to the party? You can check these things. These things are easy to do with 2 phone calls. Anybody can do it.
We've all seen season 4 of The Wire. That shit.
No, I
Shit
haven't.
happens. You
I
haven't
haven't-
seen season 4?
I haven't
It's
seen-
all false news.
Yeah.
The dude.
Don't tell me, nigga.
Well, dog, you get it. You know what? I will. If what did I say before? 20 years after or 15 years
No, I
after
don't
the
want to hear
fact?
la 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 la.
But no, the cops
The
fake
timestamp's not even on, so I can't even tell you what time I said that at.
la la la.
No.
Oh, the N word.
Yeah.
The cops fake a serial killer, and at the same time, a newspaper writer is talking to the actual fake serial killer, but he doesn't know the serial killer is fake.
All right.
You've seen season 4 of The Wire, haven't you?
I don't watch The
Dog,
Wire.
Get The Wire. Get The Wire. You have to watch The
I
Wire.
got The Wire. But this is a case of seeing one source of news and replicating it.
Of course.
This
So
is the way to make fake news, get
it goes viral.
into society,
Yeah,
right?
it absolutely goes viral. And this is where we get all of these, I want to say, crooked ideas from. Hashtag believe all women. No. I believe all facts. I'm sorry.
And
End of story.
And the thing that makes fake news so harmful is because more often than not, fake news targets
certain
sensitive,
demo.
A marginalized group, yeah.
sensitive groups.
Yeah.
You could have fake news that will enrage the urban culture, fake news that enrages LGBTQ, enrages
Exactly.
rape culture, and then people will be like, oh, well, this must have happened.
Because it happened to a marginalized group. Absolutely. So now what happens is you look at a gay black man sideways and he'll start going hate crime, hate crime, hate crime, and all of a sudden you're in shackles.
Right. By look.
Right? I can look at anyone sideways I want for any reason I want. You know? And it's not going to be a hate crime. So this is where we've arrived. Right? And I hate to go back to Jussie, but this is what he was saying in his interview. Right? You would have believed me if I said it was a Muslim guy or a black guy that beat me up. Well, yeah, I believe you now because it was a black guy that beat you up. Allegedly. You know? And the other side of it is, I believe the media, and I could be wrong. If the listeners want to prove me wrong, I'm more than happy to be proven wrong on this in this case. But I believe the media is very, very lackadaisical in their retractions. right? I have yet to see a sincere retraction from anyone about the Covington Catholic Boys case, where the media actually went, we are really sorry, we screwed this one up because of blah, blah, blah.
And that's I think that one would be something that deserves a retraction because they're the one that put out the false narrative on purpose.
And this is the thing. So we reached a point now with those guys where they're like, there are 50-something entities now that they will be suing, right? And I sincerely hope that they sue these people into oblivion.
Right. And I think the main thing we have to realize is the victims in false news like this or fake news like this, how it's reported, the victim is normally the opposite person that the news is making him out to be, right? The victim,
There's been a narrative around the victim as well. Yeah.
The victim they portray as the aggressor, and the aggressor is usually the victim.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? That's just as how they portray it. I mean, if we're going back to this Rolling Stone article, you know, the guys were thrown out of school even after
it was proven that they
even after it was proven it was false.
Yeah.
They were thrown out of school. It's going to follow them for the rest of their life, right?
Yes, absolutely.
I mean, this is one of the cases that it's like this is so detrimental to a human being to have an accusation of rape.
Yeah.
Right? Especially when the accusation can come from somebody anonymously.
Yeah.
Right? Every person in the States has the right to face their accuser. This
and also be assumed innocent
right.
until proven guilty.
Right. And lately it's been you're guilty until proven innocent, right?
Yes, exactly. And you're also guilty because you do not fit into the category of our special interest groups. You're not one of those people, you're automatically guilty, right? I feel really bad for white people, honestly.
Let's add up the percentages of these special groups. I want to know exactly how much of a percent this is in the States. Do you guys have any clue? Like, what's the black 13%?
13 to 14%.
LGBTQ is what 1%?
1 to 3%.
And then
out of the closet, yeah.
Yeah. So let's be generous. Let's say 20% for all these special interest groups.
Right.
I mean, media is catering to 20% of the population.
Yeah. Now, to me, the number itself doesn't matter. Right. The number itself really should be, and I'll tell you why it should be irrelevant. Because a hate crime is a hate crime regardless.
Right.
Right. And there should not be a tolerance for actual hate crimes. And there should not be a tolerance for also biased reporting on actual hate crimes. What the fake news seems to be doing is, by and large, biased reporting on these hate crimes.
I was about to say, shouldn't there be equal representation for news coverage on both sides? And there's not, right?
Well,
when it comes to this, there's no other side.
Yeah, there really can't be.
There's no other side, right? There's no report. Like, are you reporting people not getting raped? Like,
no, I understand what you're saying. I'm not saying that. What I'm saying is,
white people were walking down the street today. News at 6.
Yes.
You know what I'm saying? Like, it's one of those things where I understand where you're coming from, right? But
the numbers don't. Yeah,
the numbers don't add up, and sometimes the minority do need the minority. You're not going to have a majority of a majority special interest group.
Mm-hmm.
There's no such thing as a majority special interest group. Children are a minority.
Blacks are also minors.
Yeah, black people, gay people, Asian people, bald people. We're all minorities. There's special interest groups. Are special interest groups just for the reason that they're in a minority. And they want people that they could relate to be a part of a group. You dig what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
Like veterans. They're a special interest group, and they're a minority of the general public. A majority doesn't really need a special interest group because you could walk down the street and bump into someone like you. Whereas a minority, you need a special interest group because maybe there's only 5 black people that live in your town. And just by proxy, you're just like, oh, well, maybe, I don't know if I use that right. Maybe I just want to like hang out with these 5 black people. We may share a common bond.
I think that draws back to the last episode where John, when he said he came to Canada and was hanging out with Caribbean people because that's where he felt more comfortable. I think that's where you're getting at, right? So if you're a special interest group, you want to hang out with those people because you feel comfortable around those people, right?
Feel comfortable. Sometimes you feel comfortable. Sometimes you, it's just like, it may be a group where you guys sit down and talk because you share the same stories, same experiences in
right.
war.
I understand that, but reaching...
No, here's the thing, Pranel. On the subject of numbers and proportions, percentages, etc., I think the number you really should be looking at. And anyone can find this on the FBI website. This is FBI-approved numbers.
FBI.com?
Sure, why not? FBI.co.uk.
On my computer.
I am.
I'm not giving them
This site
access.
can't be reached. FBI.gov.
A Trojan has been.
Yeah, FBI.gov.
Yeah, so they keep track of hate crimes and the proportions of what group the hate crimes occurred on, or to, I guess you could say. Do you guys know what group of people in the US has had the most hate crimes happen to them?
Jewish.
Absolutely. Do you know what the number is?
It's probably small. So it has to
No,
be
like the percentage.
Oh, not at all.
Probably 80.
It's 40 to 45%. Okay. Do you know what the proportion of hate crimes occurring to Caucasians is?
That's probably a large amount.
17%
17?
of all hate crimes occurred to Caucasians. Do you know the percentage of African Americans or blacks?
It's probably, if it's smaller than whites.
It's smaller than whites.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's 14%. Right? So this is my whole problem with the reporting as it pertains to hate crimes. With that vast amount of hate crimes happening to Jews, by number alone, when you're talking about hate crimes reported in the news, that should be your top story.
This is what this.
We should be seeing a lot more of, yo, this synagogue was targeted. This Jewish guy had his yarmulke ripped off, or something like that.
That's what I was getting at. Is that to have equal representation for these hate crimes, they're not reporting the hate crimes that are happening to
they're
white
not,
people.
Yes, exactly.
Or to non-minority groups.
Exactly.
That's what I was getting
But
at.
are
with that
hate
whole
crimes
thing, right?
are hate crimes against white people really hate crimes, or is it just like come up?
Absolutely.
Hate crimes are hate crimes.
It's not comeuppance?
Comeuppance doesn't have anything
That's
to do with
niggonometry.
hate crime.
Niggonomics.
Right? The FBI is very, very specific in what they define as a hate crime. Right? And it has to meet certain criteria for that definition to be, for it to be labeled that. So the fact that all the hate crimes that we're seeing right now seem to be only hate crimes against quote unquote minorities or homosexuals. That seems to be the bulk of it.
That's only reported.
That
or
we're
that's
seeing
being
on the
reported
news.
on, yeah.
Right?
That the media is grabbing hold of and running with.
Exactly.
Right? It seems to be the overwhelming majority that, and that's what I was saying. The overwhelming majority is hate crimes against the majority race, the white people, like on whites, or on Jews, or something that
They
would
do.
be.
I mean, there was that once that synagogue that got shot up, and that was here though. So I mean, maybe the reporting here is a little bit.
Yeah,
different.
that one place they put that thing that
reporting is a little different.
No, the synagogue that got shot up not too long ago, and
Yeah.
the dude just got sentenced to 25 to life.
Yeah.
With no possibility of parole, and I think it was consecutive, like 25, 25, 25.
Wow.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, I remember I sent you that video, from the kids in Chicago, cutting off that white dude's hair.
Yeah.
So before I sent that to you, I didn't know what year that was. I thought it was recent. You said it was a couple of years ago. Those guys are in jail now, right?
Yeah.
I didn't hear anything about that.
I was all over the news. I saw that on CNN. I saw that on. They had people on CNN. They had the people sitting and talking.
Yeah,
And
the
they-
panel giving their opinion. Yeah.
Yeah, it was on there, and it was one of those, and it was the narrative, which kind of messed me up. Like, it's one of those things where it's like, the narrative wasn't about the crime. The narrative was why the outcome of that crime, the people's reaction to that crime wasn't the same as what's happening if it was the opposite. And I'm like, that's really at this point with this video out. It's not the point.
Yes.
Like, why aren't all lives matter or Black Lives Matter march? Like, white people, all lives matter. Why aren't black lives matter marching for this? Black lives matter. Why aren't all lives matter marching for this? Me, dog. They're cutting and abusing this autistic kid. Let's talk about what's wrong with these kids. Let's talk about what puts all 3 of these kids, 4 of these kids in this situation.
Yeah. So
And
again,
what's happening with the children.
right? So they're trying to spin identity politics into everything.
Exactly.
Right?
And that's when you posted, I'm like, yeah, I see exactly where you're coming from. But at this point, we know the narrative, and I feel it's our duty to take the niggas.
Can you put that on silent, please?
It is on silent, and I feel like it's our duty to expose that narrative. Like, take the sheep skin off the wolf, so to speak. And then tell them this is what the narrative should be. We all see it. Everybody that listens to our podcast sees what we see. But I feel like sometimes, even myself, come away from, like, maybe me specifically, didn't tell them what they should be looking at.
I've noticed myself. I've started to look at the world and news and everything in a very slighted fashion.
Jaded. Yeah.
Slighted. Jaded.
Someone slighted you?
Comeuppance.
In a very comeuppance fashion.
Well, yeah, in a jaded, I guess in a jaded way, with a crooked eye, because you have to weed through the bullshit to get to what you really want to know.
Well, yeah, this is why I touched on was it the last podcast or the one before, where you have to actually be very careful of weasel words. Right? And the way things are presented. So I remember in high school, one of the things that I was taught was to always look at the sources and be very discerning of the information you're given and how it's worded. Okay, so as an example, I'm going to go back in on Don Lemon, no homo. Don Lemon started out one of his tirades against Trump by saying, we all know Trump is a racist. That's how he started his rant.
That pulls you in.
Of course that pulls you in, but that's not true.
No, that's what I mean, though. I agree with you. That's it's like that pulls you in.
Yeah.
That right there, there's your objective, there's your narrative, and there's your position. There's nothing in that whole. As soon as you start with that, you know where that's going to go.
Yes, absolutely.
I know Trump is a racist, but at the end of the day, he's a good guy.
No. He didn't say I know Trump is a racist. You have to be very careful with the wording. We all know Trump is a racist, right? So what ends up happening is that subtly changes someone's mind. They might be looking at it and going, well, I don't want to be a part of all of us who don't think Trump's a racist. So, yeah, I guess Trump's a racist then. Exactly.
Didn't we have that conversation? Was that this episode where it's like, da-da-da, well, this is fucked up, da-da-da. How is it fucked up? Well, if you don't know, you're part of the problem. But if you knew, you would say.
Yes. You'd be able to describe why it's a problem.
So, in order to walk with God, you need to dance with the devil.
We could have a religious discussion about that later.
I mean, not even on the religious side, but at the end of the day, on a that's my view. Mm-hmm. There's no way I'm gonna know what the darkness, what the sunlight looks like if I don't know what it is in the dark.
You need something to compare it to.
You dig what I'm saying? So when we watch, like when I watch the news all the time, I watch mainstream media. Yeah. I'm just back on Facebook, and at the end of the day, it's the same thing. I'm glad I have Podcast P, Parnell Ramlaw on my Facebook to give me the what, you left or right? I don't even know. You left?
I'm center.
He gives me the opposite side of what everybody else is giving me at some point, right?
Yeah, he's right. He's center right.
But I don't take anything that I consume without research as gospel.
Of course, that's your due diligence, right? Which is fantastic. You should be doing that.
And I don't often research shit. Right. But I don't bring it to people as facts unless I researched it. Yeah. I bring it to people in discussion.
Yeah, did you hear what so and so happened?
This is what da-da-da. Didn't this da-da-da? And if someone says no, this da-da-da, I'm like, oh, because now I'm like, okay, so and so, let's say y'all saw this. Yeah. I saw something completely the opposite on the same thing. Yeah. Okay, now I'm gonna want to look. So I mean, at the end of the day, that's the problem. May not even be the fake news. Mm-hmm. It just may be people being lazy and just taking fake news as gospel. I mean, the people been lied to. Motherfuckers still believe Nutella is nutritious.
It's delicious.
It's disgusting. It's horrible.
It is delicious.
I still put sawdust on my pizza. You know what I'm saying? Yo, all sprinkle Parmesan cheese is like 95% sawdust.
Are you serious?
And it's known.
I'm going to have to look at that.
Look it up.
I'm going to have to look that up.
I have a computer in front of me. You know this.
Yeah, look it up. Look it up. It's a huge thing. Okay, that and let's take a look at everybody thinks cake. No.
Tangent.
George W. Bush, the one that's still alive, Jr.
Okay, continue.
He was in the National Guard, and a lot of people believe that he was not, or his records were faked, or he did this in the National Guard. All because Dan Rather rushed to a hot topic.
Yes.
Fake news.
Absolutely.
There was a retraction and a firing of someone that exposed Watergate.
Okay, yeah.
So people that haven't...
Yeah, I do remember that.
Yeah, and people that haven't looked into that, that's one of the few retractions. I've seen maybe like a handful of retractions from the news.
Yeah.
That's one of the few ones where they made him retract the shit. And he was one of the top. It's Dan Rather.
Yes.
You know what I'm saying?
Very, very well-known guy.
Powdered wood pulp.
Yeah, powdered wood pulp.
And the main ingredient is the main ingredient in paper.
Not in Parmesan cheese.
FDA has found non-dairy filler ingredients used to make paper in your Parmesan cheese.
And said, cool. Read through it. I bet you at the end it said, and the FDA said cool. Like that's COO. Like,
Not even cool.
Yeah, but
cool.
that's like we're being lied to 24/7.
Right.
Yeah.
The wise man, the smart man believes half of what he reads, and the wise
of what
man
man,
knows
yeah.
what half to believe. Like
Yeah.
we're being lied to. I lie to people on this podcast weekly. I just make up stuff, and you guys sometimes y'all call me out, sometimes you call me out the next week. Remember the next week you're like, oh, so da. I'm like, nah, I'm just playing.
Yeah.
So my whole point
on.
is
I
people just need to do their due diligence. Do not believe everything you hear, and if it's something that you feel, if you hear something on the news and you believe it, and you want to be steadfast in that, and you want to use that in discussion, or you want to post about that, at least do research on 3 different websites that aren't Google.
Yeah.
Google it and look, and then come to a conclusion. If
Right.
it's all conclusive or it's not conclusive, but
We see this is where again the bigger problem comes in, right? Is that you have people who already have the result in mind that they want to see happen. They have the narrative in mind that they want to see happen. So at the end of the day, what they're going to do is they're going to not look at something that contradicts what they believe should be the narrative. And then they're going to run with it. Like, there was a woman, I don't know if I think it's the Washington Post, it could be the New York Times or whatever. She wrote an article. I'm sorry, going back in on Jussie, but whatever. She wrote an article after all the facts came out. And she's like, I'm sad this actually turned out to be true. Not because it was a hoax, but because it challenged her narrative of the world. And she would rather be a victim and have this guy actually have been attacked by racists, so she could prove her belief that America is vastly racist and that all Trump supporters are hicks that tote shotguns around.
and that's
ridiculous. This woman is an imbecile.
but it's not even that this woman is an imbecile.
She's an imbecile.
She may be ignorant, but the detriment of using what's happened, the climate of America. You're taking fake news, you're taking the climate of America and turning it on itself.
Absolutely. She's an imbecile.
But no, not her. That's what Jussie did.
He's an imbecile too.
So a lot of these people, you can't say that they're imbeciles. They're products of their environment. So even if she may have not done her due
I'm
diligence,
sorry,
and
I
moved
don't
it, but
give
she's a
anybody
product
that
of her-
easy of a pass. I don't
but
give people that easy of a pass.
when
Because you have
they were
God gave you
duped.
logic.
Hold on,
God gave you
One at a
logic.
time, one at a
Logic,
time, one
but
at a time.
They were duped. People were duped, and at the end of the day, they weren't duped because they're stupid. They're duped because they feel in their heart they need to
I'm
believe
not
something.
talking
because
the
they're feeling
general
about
public that literally they had no other choice necessarily than to go along with what they were being fed. But this is after the fact. This woman saw the story and after the fact went, I wish this was actually true.
The story that happened, or the story that the can't come out story that it was fake.
The come out story that it was fake.
Oh,
This is after everything was exposed that it was a fake.
Oh, I misunderstood.
Yeah, she went
Okay.
off and said, I wish this was actually real because she wanted to reinforce her vision that America is actually racist.
Who is this?
I can't remember her name.
Not
I
AOC, right?
No, this was an AOC. This is a writer for, I believe, the Washington Post.
So this, regardless of the facts put to her, she's like, regardless of whatever.
Yeah.
This is my agenda. I'm sticking to it
Absolutely.
for that one specific thing.
Yeah,
It's not like
this is why I say she's an imbecile, right? Like, she would rather have seen Jussie get beat up by legitimate racists wearing MAGA hats so that it would reinforce her view that America is actually racist.
I think the whole. Sorry to interrupt. I know you have like something
go ahead. No,
good.
this is interesting. Go ahead.
I think the whole Jussie Smollett thing is so deep.
It's opened up a lot of... I think it's opened a lot of people's eyes.
That needs to be a whole topic, not Jussie Smollett, but I think the whole climate in the United States and how people are using that against each other,
Yeah.
and how people are using that against people that like the common interest groups and people that may not be a part of that group, but feel to be a better human. You need to empathize for anything.
You need
that
to be
happens.
a victim or
Yeah.
like sympathize with victims or whatever.
Yeah, this virtue signaling is got to go.
The who?
It's called virtue signaling when you're trying when
you're trying to show how virtuous you are by you know, saying that it's pretty much
It's
this.
like it's like guys that are feminists, right? They're doing it to show that
They're just showing off,
they're just showing off and to get pussy. That's what I feel anyway.
right? But it basically comes down to people going, listen, I stand with so and so. I stand with these people. I stand with these downtrodden people.
Yeah.
But
So no matter what happens,
but
they're
they're not
gonna stand with them.
they're not actually doing anything.
Right.
They're just trying to signal to everyone that they are more virtuous than you know. It's what we
Like-
it's a show.
And I just want to correct John here. The FBI stats show something just a little different than what you were saying. Anti-white incidents. So there's a total hate crimes 2017 statistics.
Right.
Incidents, a total of 7,175 incidents. Anti-white 741. Anti-black 2,013. Anti-Jewish 938. So
down.
if you
So it's
take
gone down from
yeah,
the last time you
if you
checked.
take 741 and 938, put them together, you're looking right around 1,700. So 1,700 is still less than 2,000, and white people make up 80% of the majority, or 80% or 60% of the population, and black people make up 13. So
So even by capita, it's a larger amount.
By
but
capita,
it's not a lot.
but
by
per
people-
capita, black people are being there's anti-black rhetoric going around more than there is anti-Jewish.
And
Is what I wanted to get at.
I'd like to
Right.
think that.
But that's
2017.
That's rhetoric, though. Is that hate crimes?
That's incidents, hate crime. These are hate crime statistics.
Right.
Incidents
in 2017.
in 2017.
But you got to think probably
That's
a lot
not-
of this
they don't
has
have
gone
2018 up yet.
Okay.
I bet you a lot of this has gone up.
Absolutely.
When Trump came into office, not that Trump's a racist or anything like that, but
Well, let me check 2015 and see.
a lot of people that think Trump is a racist are racist. You understand what I'm saying?
Yep, it's projection.
You know what I'm saying? So
Absolutely.
and they're hearing fake news that Trump's a racist, and like, oh, well, now we could be open with the racism. Like, it's the U.S. is so messed up.
Humans are so messed up.
Yeah, but why are they all? A lot of them populated in this little area around Yosemite.
I've never been to Yosemite, so I don't know.
It's a lot. It's a whole lot of colonization, inbreeding, and stuff. Humans are messed up. All I know is, if you listen to us, research what we say. If you want to take what we say and bring it into a conversation and use it as fact, research what we say.
Yep.
A lot of the stuff we research, and sometimes we researched 4 or 5 years ago. You know what I'm saying?
I'm looking at 2015 stats, and they're fairly similar from 2017 to 2015, or 2015 to 2017. If I look at 2016, I'm going to bet it's right in the middle there. The only difference is the numbers are slightly lower, and by slightly I mean by 100.
Right.
So I mean 100 in a year is still 100, right? That's a lot.
So it's low. Okay.
There was more in 2017 than 2015. But it was still towards anti-black. It was still leveraged towards anti-black or anti-black or anti-African American. So John's just looking over my shoulder. This is 2015 hate crime statistics, FBI website, incidents, offenses, victims, and known offenders. So anti-white, 613, anti-black, 1745. If you go down to anti-Jewish, it's right there. And this is a terrible listening experience for our listeners. But if you were to add up all the white, the anti this, anti whatever, it would equal more than black if you put them all together. Excuse me. So I think what we need to take away from this is that the hate crime statistics show 13% of the population is being hated on more than
60% of the
60% of the population.
And
per capita.
By triple.
Right.
So, and I think hate crime towards any race or any sexual orientation, if it's 3%, I still think it's too high.
Yeah. We'll
But
never get to 0%.
Remember this is the percentage. These are actual. These are actual.
But
The
you
incidents.
look at this, and so I really feel it's deplorable to take something like this, or to take something that actually happens as far as hate crimes and rapes and murders and everything like that of like the LGBTQ or blacks or Jews or whites, and to take that and use it as ammunition to further your own specific cause is deplorable. Especially when you're black and you're gay. You already have two things going, and you're in Hollywood.
Yes,
Two
and you're
things
being
going
paid,
for
and
you
you're
that would
being
be
paid
put you
anywhere
ahead.
from 60,000 to 100,000 per episode.
You're a black gay dude in Hollywood. You could have your own TV show. You don't need to go to these levels. And the saddest part is that he did.
Yeah.
The saddest part is he set 2 causes back 10 years for personal gain.
I don't think he set any causes back 10 years. But
People,
what he did
but
do.
you think about it, like when this and everybody, as a kid in Canada, a black kid in Canada, you do one thing wrong in class, anything else that happens in class, they're gonna look at you. Anything that you do right, they're gonna bring up, oh, da 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 da.
But he did this also.
He also did this. If you look at, black people, da 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 da, this is what happened, and let's say something real happens, they're going to reference to what Jussie said.
Yeah.
What Jussie did.
Yeah.
Something real happens to the LGBTQ, they're gonna and to one person, let's say, and it's gonna have now it's gonna have people. Imagine a big female celebrity came out and said she got raped by an executive and da 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 da, and all this shit happened and turned out was fake.
Mm-hmm.
Females are going to be scared females that actually got raped by big celebrities are going to be scared to come out.
Absolutely,
because of that.
yeah.
And that's
Okay, yeah,
that's
I
a
see your point there.
That's a
I see your
setback.
point,
You know what
yeah.
I'm saying?
Yeah.
And let's say, what if it's Chicago? Walking down the street with a MAGA hat is already detrimental.
Yes.
Now you're in Chicago and you have a MAGA hat. Okay, cool. Wear whatever you want. All it takes is one gangbanger listening to Chief Keef who thinks he has something to prove to let off 2 shots. And everybody knows nobody in Chicago has no aim. There's more. The killings in Chicago are more stray bullets than anything else.
I see what you're saying.
Someone shoots off. You're in the same mall, and someone pops off. And everybody's like, it's not going to start a race war. It's not going to start a race war. One black kid kills a white dude in a MAGA hat is a race war. If you want to kill somebody because of what they're wearing, and they're a different race, I'm not talking Bloods and Crips here. That's a race war. That's war.
Yeah.
Chicago's already a war zone. It's
right. And
that's why I feel like I apologize. That's why I feel like we need to talk about this on a different episode because it infuriates me. I don't understand how mad I am at this whole situation.
Okay, well, I want you to get mad at something else here real quick. I want you.
I love you, fam.
I want you to tell me the difference between a black guy shooting somebody with a MAGA hat in Chicago and Jussie Smollett pretending these guys had MAGA hats and it was a hate crime.
The only difference is nobody, by the grace of God, died.
Right.
He's putting a target on people.
But I think what Will was actually getting at is he doesn't see the difference between the racial aspect of it. From what I got from you was it doesn't make a difference if it's a black guy shooting a white guy or vice versa.
No.
They're both equally deplorable.
Yeah.
Yeah, oh yeah, 1,000,000%. Yeah,
I'm just saying for this example, like if
I'm saying 1,000,000. What I want to know is, if there's people saying that Jussie Smollett shouldn't get jail time. He just has to. Chicago PD come out and said we hope he says he apologizes and this and that. I hope they throw the book at him and he gets 50 years. And here's why.
I agree.
Yeah, we have to put, but the time has to be at the extent of the law.
Okay, whatever. I wanted to get the maximum in accordance to law.
3 years.
R. Kelly's still walking. Give him
let
50 years
me
first.
tell you why.
And pissing.
Now I really want to hear what Parnell has to say.
Here's why. Somebody that any hate crime is deplorable, right? Somebody who fakes a hate crime to gain notoriety or for any kind of personal gain is doing the same thing that a hate crime is doing. Is trying to start a race war or a hate war. Is that?
No, what I think I disagree with the fact that they're trying to start a race war or some type of conflict in that classical sense.
Even if he wasn't doing it consciously,
yeah.
it's there. That's what's happening when you put those situations together, especially with the climate in America right now.
This is what I think they're actually trying to do. They're trying to gain victimhood points.
Yeah. They're trying to hit the heartstring. It's like when when Budweiser has the commercial with the lost dog. They're pulling on the heartstrings for monetary gain.
It's the victim Olympics, people.
Absolutely.
Jussie Smollett just won the gold.
The reason why I don't think he should get jail time is because at the end of the day, jail is not the appropriate punishment for this. I do feel shame and the eradication of his career.
Can we bring back public lashings?
It's really gonna.
Yes, please.
No, I don't think public lashings are. No. I'm too black to even.
Doug,
I got the blood of a slave in me. There's no way I'm gonna advocate
too.
for public lashes. You know what I'm saying?
I got
But my
blood
whole thing
slave in
is
me
like,
too, man. I would lash his ass.
say, if you the shame, the public shame, like this is worldwide, the public shame and the eradication of his career, and that's something he's living with the rest of his life. I think that's a fate worse than jail. Sometimes the ultimate punishment is your pocketbook and your respect.
No, I think he needs to be taught a lesson.
But this is definitely going to teach him a lesson,
Right,
more
and
than what
everybody
jail will.
that goes to jail comes out of jail knowing, or at least if they've done their
Yeah,
time.
let's pull that.
That sounds like all right.
Let's feel that one.
Fucking e-brake
Let's
just
reel
hit
that
real
back.
quick. If you go to jail and you're actually remorseful for your crime, you've served a time that has meant for you for reflection and improvement in your life. There hasn't been any of that from him yet, right? He hasn't come out to say he's remorseful. He's denied all the charges.
And would you believe him? Because the dude's an actor.
Right,
Yeah.
and that's the thing. He needs to experience something that's going to
Be life altering.
yes,
Sincerely
And
life altering.
sincerely. And I
Never
know what you, I know
working
what you,
again and pulling his.
I understand what you're saying.
This is the thing, dude.
Have
to
him
me,
working at the Walmart greeter.
To me, punish. I wouldn't believe him either.
Welcome to
To
Walmart.
me-
No, I'm not.
To me, the purpose of punishment should not only be for someone to pay their dues, but to also be a deterrent. In my estimation, the punishment for a hate crime should, let's say it's 10 years in jail, right? That should also be the punishment given to someone who has been found to hoax said crime.
right,
Right?
Just like
to me would act as a massive deterrent to someone thinking of hoaxing these things.
I extrapolate that to the rape case we said, right?
I was just gonna say.
If fake rape cases that hurts, and what is it? 99% are on against men, right?
Yeah.
So if that turns out to be false, the woman that claimed that, she needs to go to jail.
And that happened with there's that high school student or was it college student who said the three dudes gang raped her.
Is that the one I was talking about?
No, this was a different one. And this wasn't a report or anything like that. Like she called the police. I think maybe college. Of course, it was a white girl, black dudes, whatever. That's besides from the point. I mean, that just adds fuel to that fire, right?
Of course.
And it was in the southern state, I believe, maybe Texas.
Was that the one I was thinking of, the lacrosse team?
Maybe.
Was it lacrosse?
I think it was a lacrosse team,
And they said
yeah.
the gang rape, and then and then it got proven that it didn't actually happen. She retracted her statement, was false, and she got 3 to 5 years or something like that.
Right.
But it ruined their lives.
Of course.
For that
They're
whole time,
permanently
they couldn't
scarred.
play.
They're permanently tarnished.
They couldn't play the sport again. They
Yeah.
got kicked out of the school.
Yeah.
And I mean, at the end of the day, in the U.S., a black man in college is a huge thing.
Yeah.
Which it shouldn't be.
It should yeah, that should.
But you come from like these are kids that came like just speculating and just using stereotypes. If they came from a situation in the hood or in the ghetto where
I
most
don't know, if
people
they're
don't
playing
make
lacrosse,
it out.
I think
So,
they probably came up in a
Listen,
more,
it wasn't
more affluent area.
Yeah, it wasn't lacrosse. It was 2 college football players. This
Football,
is
yeah.
what I'm
Okay.
talking about. This is in Connecticut. She received 1 year.
Connecticut's worse. 1 year.
1 year?
She should've got
She
more.
pled guilty in June to a misdemeanor.
Oh, but
Charges
you know what?
of
She took a plea.
charges of falsely reporting an incident and interfering with police.
She took a plea. I mean, she
There
probably
has
would
to
have got
be
more.
there
if she
has
didn't
to
take the
be a
plea.
harder sentence. I think.
Agreed.
I don't
completely
think there
agree.
should be a plea. There has to be a harder sentence. I mean, is there? I was going to say
She should
reparations.
She should get
Was-
15 to life like a rapist would get.
I think, yeah, but
That would absolutely make people think twice about.
I'm
allegating
100%. I'm 100%
or
on the
alleging
fence with that
something.
because at the same time, that's why I paused. Because at the same time, I want to disagree. I want to agree. So I'm really
You're on the fence.
I'm really on the
please-
fence
please
as far
explain
as like
why.
if I can't like that's why I pause. Like it's one of those things that's gonna be when I pause and I'm like, I do that shit. It's probably gonna be like 8 minutes of that.
Okay, what's the downside to it?
The downside, I don't know the downside or the upside. I know the deterrent is one of the upsides. I know one of the downside is it didn't actually happen, and I think there needs to be jail is. I don't wish jail on anybody that hasn't done anything, even if it's the false accusations.
No, they've done something then.
No, I know, but hear me out. I feel like it should be something that hits you harder than jail. I feel like it should be something that is extenuated over a long period of time. You can be free, but at the end of the
Oh, you want harsher terms?
like a scarlet letter type thing. Like you're paying into these kids' college funds. Like 40% of your paycheck is going into it, something like that.
Yeah.
There has to be a deterrent outside of jail because sometimes you go to jail and you come out and it's like okay,
You haven't
jail,
changed. You're just
you haven't
like, yeah.
changed. The jail may not be rehabilitation for someone that is not rehabilitation from someone that happens to. You can't be rehabilitated from something that's not a habitual habit. So people going to jail that are thieves, drug dealers, get rehabilitated because they're coming out of that. She lied about a certain situation to get out of a different situation.
Yeah, and there's no proof that she's a habitual
liar. She's no proof that she's done this before. So she goes to jail, gets a little punishment. I'm sorry I lied. I shouldn't have lied. But when she comes out, she's probably going to be more hardened and different than when she went in.
Yeah,
you think what I'm saying? She may come out a criminal. She may come out with a different mindset. Whereas you get like a little year and a half.
Year and a half. Yeah, you can do a year and a half on your head.
Get a little year and a half. Okay, give them the probation standards that they give black teens. You're on probation for 10 years. You cannot you can't jaywalk. Like, give them the New York probation, the one that Meek Mills and everybody's fighting against. Give them that New York probation, where you sneeze, you take the change before the cashier gives it to you. You're going to serve the rest of those 10 years in jail. Now, pay a fine, but this fine needs to be incremented over a period of time. You need to maintain employment and pay a certain percentage out of there, like taxes, to these kids.
Right, a fake news tax.
Yeah, a fake news tax, something like that. Because you went to jail and you come out and you're done.
Okay.
You do a year. You do 15 years in jail. If she does 15 years in jail, either she's going to die or she's going to come out with tattoos and she's doing another 30 years in the streets.
Yeah, that's actually another topic we have to touch on.
I see what you're saying.
That's another topic we have to touch on is prison, because we have to decide whether it's rehabilitation or an education. So that's a whole
maybe both.
Other
your education
topic.
may rehabilitate you. Say yes, and when I tell you,
can I get an amen?
Can I get an amen? When I tell you, on the top of the mountaintops,
amen.
When the cannon's on the left,
amen,
and the cannon's on the right,
amen.
And I'm still 8 inches away from the microphone.
Hallelujah.
Yeah.
Where the fuck were we?
But yeah, I really feel, and I do not like prison. I don't feel like the prison system, especially in the States, is designed for anything except for corporate monetary government involvement.
Okay. So besides articles in the news, besides things we see shared social media, there's this statistics that people who are 65 and over will share false news or fake news more often. There's also been reports, and it's been proven, clickbait clickbait, what are they called? Clickbait services, like people that will put out fake news on purpose for a certain agenda.
Oh, like when they do the elections and everything like that, and then they have like 100 people. They hire 100 people to go on social media, create fake social media accounts, and put out falsities about the other person. And the algorithm.
Yes, but not only that, there's actual companies that are clickbait experts that will throw out news articles that are just slightly off. And they'll be shared millions of times, becoming viral, right? And they know how to do it in a certain way. It's been proven that these guys are, thousands and thousands of people sitting in a room.
They find the formula to
go viral,
sensationalism.
right?
Sensationalism.
So if you have 10,000 people sharing the same thing, right, over a vast majority, it disseminates the information everywhere,
yes, very
right?
quickly,
and people believe it because everything looks very true, except for one slight thing.
But not only just that's a part of it 100%, but people also believe it because they continuously see it. If you see it enough online, it must be true.
Yeah, what is it Hitler said?
I don't know.
Repeat a lie. A lie. You can make people believe something by repeating the lie as many times as possible. I'm paraphrasing, but his whole idea was to repeat a lie that was so big and
right.
It was always repeated that people will just start believing.
Right. Well, they say if you see an advertisement 7 times, it's stuck in your head. Or if you say something out loud 7 times, it's stuck in your head, and you'll remember it, right?
Yeah.
So if you ever want to remember a phone number, say it 7 times, and that just goes to show that if you see something on social media, this version and then this version, then this version, but they're all very, very, very similar,
you're gonna start believing it.
You're gonna start believing it, right? Just then, the headlines that grab people's attention are the ones that, unfortunately, they want to go because that's where they want the clicks, right, for advertising sponsors and money. And there's a whole slew of propaganda that is completely incorrect. That
the funny thing is, a majority of people don't even click on them. They just see that headline
exactly,
and they run with it,
and that's the story.
And
yeah.
they'll share the story. You know how many times people share like the Onion story or something that I shared? I've read the article, but they're like, "Oh my god, I can't believe it!" And they'll click on it, and they'll click share right away.
What's the story?
It's anything from the Onion.
Anything from the
I
Onion.
had to educate a lot of people. Like, the Onion is a satire.
It's a satire site.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like,
They
had
don't know.
They had to step down their Photoshop just so, because they had to say, we're not real, and let me just make this Photoshop a little more crappy so people can see that we're not real.
Yeah, and there's a bunch of sites like that aren't as, I guess,
Beaverton.
satirical as the Onion, that will put this stuff out and not let anybody know that it's satirical, right? So and they get away from the law that way because, in tiny print on the very last page of their website says this is a satire website.
Yeah.
Right? It's getting to the point now where I'm looking on Facebook, I'm looking on my social medias, I'm just looking on, CNN.com or whatever, right? And they're sharing stories that are false.
Yes.
And Fox, and they're sharing stories that are, or versions of stories that are false. And I'm like, what the fuck is going on? Nobody's doing research anymore.
Well, yeah, that's what happened with that whole that story that Trump was going to Russia and paying prostitutes to pee on him.
Right.
That came from, I believe it was a Huffington Post or something.
Yeah, I missed that one. I missed all that one.
Yo, guy, this was all over CNN, all over MSNBC, and they were like, see, Trump's colluding with Russia, only to find out that it was a completely hoaxed
It
story.
was fake. He's going to Russia to get peed on. I didn't
Yeah.
even. I wasn't. I didn't
Oh yeah, no, they'd found the hotel room that he was going into. Everything, guy. Like, they had this story completely fabricated, and all the major news networks ran with it, and none of them retracted. Where they just said, "Yeah, it turned out that this wasn't quite true." End of story. Bye bye.
Well, that's the one that the dude, that one dude that has a satire fan account of that one news sports anchor.
Yeah, the what's his name?
Yeah.
The announcer there, and you're like,
there. I'm like, and so I looked at it, and I'm like, so and so signing, or the Jets are gonna sign Colin Kaepernick, and I'm looking at him, it's like, no, he's not allowed to. No one's allowed to sign him until the court case is done, and the court case wasn't done yet. And I'm like, and I saw World Star and allhiphop.com and a couple of like urban.
there was some big
some
celebrities. The
reputable,
NBA players were sharing it.
So I
Football players.
reposted it, and I reposted it. I'm like, so is this true, or did such and such article get extremely trolled? Because I knew it couldn't be true, right?
Yeah.
And then, but the way I knew it couldn't be true, I went to his profile, the profile that they quoted, and I'm looking through. I'm like, oh, this isn't even the real one. And I'm looking at all this stuff, and it's like, it's all okay. So my research was just going to the source of the damn thing.
You're just going to one Twitter page.
Yeah, so then I made fun of everybody, and all the other ones, they pulled off the story, right? They pulled it off because the Twitter page that the dude's on has the dude's face.
Yeah,
But then
he's sitting there like, look how far it's reached. Look how many,
yeah,
look how many shares it is.
He's tweeting about how many people are sharing it. He's
Dude,
tweeting
from
about
the
everybody
account-
that he
from the account where that tweet was from. I'm like, are you fucking
it's
kidding me,
hilarious.
fool? Come on.
I was laughing. I was pooping when the whole thing transpired when I was pooping, and I thought it was the funniest poop.
I know you posted it to the thing. I'm like, that is fucking hilarious,
Yeah.
man.
I'm like, dude, did you see this? He's like, yo, that's it. I'm like, I know, this dude's hilarious. He's trolling the whole world. And me and P had like a little back and forth about that for a couple minutes. That shit was funny as hell. He trolled the whole world, even the sports community.
Yeah, how does that happen?
Man, I don't know, but I want that power.
The thing is, you have that power. You just need to come up with something sensational enough
Yeah, just to
that people
troll
will
everybody.
start sharing. But it has to be truthful enough too. The best lie has some truth in it.
It has some truth in it, but I don't want it to be like a Jussie Smollett one. Like on the lines of Kaepernick getting signed to the Jets, that was funny.
Yeah.
But like I got beat up by 3 gay dudes with pink bandanas on, like the new gay gang.
Even if it happened in the real,
Yeah.
if it happened in reality, you wouldn't say that.
I wouldn't. If I got beat up by 3 straight dudes, I wouldn't tell nobody. What happened to you? I slipped.
Yeah.
It's a doorknob, man. It's a doorknob. My wife beat me. I'd say anything except 3 dudes beat me up. Like my wife, she just hits me. I don't know. I'll start a He Too movement. I'll tell Sherry just to just play along, baby. We gonna have T-shirts and marches. I forgive her.
Are we done with the serious now?
She could be my Christina Brown. I could be Williana. She beat me in the BMW on the way to the
Christina
the
Brown.
YYC Awards. She beat me.
Christina Brown
She could be.
and Williana.
Let me see if you can run it. I didn't give her, The umbrella wasn't big enough. Ella. Hey.
Oh, Lord have mercy. I think we've descended into satire ourselves.
Wrap this bitch up, man. Will Hayes.
Yeah, fake news is everywhere. It's been everywhere. I think it's more prevalent because at the end of the day, now we have 1 million people or however many people are on social media sites resharing.
It's about 50.
Yeah, resharing fake news. Hit me with the serious. That wasn't serious. But they're resharing the fake news. So before, if we saw fake news, if we saw it on the news, we just go into a little social circles, talk about it, and we'd have to go research it. And researching would be the little film things and the big things and you scroll and see it and zoom in. You know what I'm saying? The paper articles and stuff like that. Now you don't even have to do research. You see an article and then you see 80 people repost it and all 80 people are oblivious to the fact. And now you're pulled into the lemming crew. You dig what I'm saying? If you see fake news, if you choose to believe it or not believe it, that's definitely up to you. But if you want to use what you see to educate or to inform somebody, be responsible and at least go to the source. If you see such and such, if Colin Kaepernick got signed to the Jets, go to the Jets Twitter, go to Kaepernick's Twitter, and go to the source of who wrote that. That's not even research, but that's still due diligence. Mm-hmm. Or continue to share fake news and continue to have me on your Facebook saying things like, "Are you dumb? Guy, chill, fam." And, the occasional
Stoops.
Yeah. John Vex.
Let's see. Fake news is very bad.
And
I will use, and that's it. No, I will use a line from Damian Marley. He had a song called "In Too Deep," and in the first verse he says the lyric, "If you're over 10 and you watch CNN and believe everything, you're in too deep." Right? That is literally what is going on right now. You really have to be a discerning human being in this day and age and try to figure out what the end goal is. Why are these people saying this? Because all of these people have an agenda that is not honest or honorable. And thus, it is bringing them to distribute and disseminate this information in a very, very dishonest manner, right? Again, just look at who they are targeting and what group the news is defaming or insulting, etc., and you will have your answer. At the end of the day, follow the money and look at the agenda.
And just because you're a part of that special interest group doesn't mean everybody who's a part of that special interest group has your interests at heart.
Or is honorable.
Yeah. My turn?
Why not?
To me, this can be summed up in one of two words. Money or power. Misinformation, disinformation is spread, is hoaxed, is jumped on to push a narrative to ultimately gain that side's more power. I don't know why we have to be so polarized from each side and not see things on a level playing field. Why do we always assume the worst in people instead of assuming that something was inaccurate in the reporting or that something was inaccurate in how it all played out? I think people have mostly the best intentions when it comes to each other, especially race, politics. We do have the best intentions towards our fellow humankind. What we don't have is people higher up that have power wanting people to get along. And that's where the information is getting spread wrongly. Algorithms affect your life, and don't take them all for... Will Hayes is doing a dance. Don't take them all for... I can't concentrate when you're dancing, dog. Don't take everything you read as fact. Do your research. Do your due diligence. Don't take what anybody says as fact. And like Will said, go to the source. You got to fucking do your research, man.
Do your research.
Hallelujah.
And with that, we out this motherfucker.